and I said that I was going to do this. I was not going to put any PowerPoint slides up and just talk. And then I thought about this for just 1 second and thought, no, there's a couple of key points, and I do want to point out some stuff. So IPv6, if you think it's hard being convinced to build infrastructure and to do peering and to deal with the cost issues that were just discussed, IPv6 in theory is like, don't bother me with this, let me get my base stuff done. Well, that doesn't work. And it doesn't work not because I'm saying it, it's because in Africa you have Afrinic, which has been tireless in trying to explain to all of its constituents why IPv6 is vital to be addressed today. And I can't in 15 or 20 minutes do what Afrinic has put an awful lot of work into, what ISOC's put a lot of work into, what our company has put a lot of work into, and others. But I just want to say IPv6 is important. And there's a couple of things that I want to point out, and I'm going to try and keep it well within time. So I'm going to talk about some tools to get experience with v6, and then I'm going to talk about just what's going on globally with v6 and why this is something to take advantage of. Now, our company, Hurricane Electric, which has been building and providing IP transit for a long time, has also been doing IPv6 for a long time. And we've been running a service called Tunnel Broker since about 2001, 2002, but in its modern invocation is a global offering that enables people who want to get some experience with v6 but don't have a local provider in their country or don't have a broadband or a network in their office. They have the ability to use the Tunnel Broker system to get access to v6. Now, we've built this now globally. And we're going to go back and guess what I'm going to say. So we have Tunnel Broker in London, and that's probably going to be the most obvious place to connect to. Stay tuned from Afrinic on stuff in this area, but not from me. We focus on Europe, Asia, and the US. But the Tunnel Broker system enables you to interconnect from a laptop, from a Linux box, from even a Cisco router or a Juniper router, and connect over and get IPv6 up and running. And I could normally run through a bunch of slides on how to do this, but it has got so simple and so easy to do that I just refer you to the website. What's important to note is that Tunnel Broker provides BGP as well as basic, simple IPv6 access. So if you're running a network and you want to throw v6 into your core and use it, you can do what a lot of other people have done and use Tunnel Broker to get v6 as a tunnel. Now, tunnels aren't brilliant, but if you have no way to get v6 from your service provider, they may be the only way that you have access. And we had actually the .ae domain in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, came to us about two and a half years ago, set up a tunnel, and basically had no problem. About a year and a half later, I bumped into them in somewhere, Minog in Turkey. And the gentleman who had been running their v6 stuff apologized to me profusely. He said, thank you very much for the tunnel, but we turned it off because we now have native IPv6 from our local telco in Dubai. And he was very sad that he had to say it. I said, I'm happy. The day the last tunnel goes away, we will celebrate, because that means that there's a lot of good v6 available everywhere. Second thing that we do, again, leave this as an exercise. We run an IPv6 certification program. We've been doing this now for many years, and it is a set of online, practical training, testing that we do in order to give you a certificate, to give you something that says you know something about IPv6. The top level is SAGE level. You start as a beginner, you build yourself up through different levels. These levels give you different badges. You don't get much, except for to say that you've got this Hurricane Electric IPv6 certification. But there's a subtlety to this. This isn't just a bunch of questions. This is built for network operators and system administrators, because what it says is, I'd like you to look at this web page. It's IPv6 only. And when you go to it, you'll see a little number. Type that number into your certification program. And so the person doing this says, well, I better get some v6 enabled on my laptop. Now the next test is, we'd like you to send us an email. But that email has to arrive over v6. And another test says you have to set your name servers up to run IPv6. And then final test is you have to go to your domain operator and say, I want my glue record. I want my example.com domain to be IPv6 in the glue, all the way to the root of the DNS system. That's not easy. But we didn't do this test to make it hard. What we did was we did this test so that thousands of people would phone their domain registrars around the world and say, I want IPv6. Because that was the best way we thought about getting domain registrars to actually do this work. And they did in their droves. And we ended up hitting the top level. We basically hit, so far, about 3,600 SAGE level certified IPv6 Hurricane Electric certified SAGEs. The majority are in the US. The other countries down here, United Kingdom, Germany, the Netherlands, Canada, France, etc. But I broke it down by continent, and there's a couple of pieces of information here. One is, yes, Africa's got, from a continent point of view, has got the lowest number of SAGEs, most of which are in South Africa. But that number has been increasing. And I know it's a very small number, but it has been increasing. The second part is that the top number there is predominantly for the European Union guys who have been very adamantly and pushing v6. And they're always happy to see that the collective European Union has more IPv6 certified SAGEs than the United States. So they keep happy with that. Okay, so how do we get so many people interested in this when we weren't giving any, there was nothing that they got except for something they could put on a resume or on their website? And the answer was, well, we cheated. We sent them a T-shirt. So after about half a year to a year of running this, we came up with this T-shirt idea. And what we did was we sent out an email, and a few things hit Facebook and the like, and basically said, if you get your v6 SAGE, if you go all the way through, we'll send you a T-shirt. Well, 3,500 T-shirts later, and I'm talking everywhere in the world, some places not easy to ship to, we've got a lot of people motivated. And this, as a measure has been great. Now, people like this T-shirt. I'll wear one tomorrow. It's got a very geeky back IPv6 to it, but people have got it, and people post their pictures wearing the T-shirt on Facebook or wherever. It was a success. I mean, it was a success any way you measure it. But I'm going to show you some traffic graphs, because that's my way of measuring it. If you're moving global transit around, if you're moving bits around, what it really boils down to is traffic. So this graph here, and I do apologize, but there is no y-axis on this, and there is no y-axis on this for a reason, in the sense that it's really hard to share some of these numbers. But this is a graph of about a week, about maybe a week or 2 weeks before World v6 Day, and then World v6 Day itself, followed by the aftermath of that. And two things happened. On World v6 Day, we saw 5 times as much v6 traffic on the global internet, on our backbone. Now, 5 times as much traffic is not generated by machines talking to machines. This is human beings who are v6 enabled, looking at web content that has been v6 enabled for that day. And these, I mean, first of all, I'll give you a clue. This graph is in the gigabits range. This is not megabits. This is not kilobits. This is in the gigabits range. And of this amount of traffic was significant. This meant that there were people who had v6 on their desktops that they could use. It meant that if content was enabled for v6, it would be used. It put a nail just to stop any argument about whether v6 traffic really existed or not. But the key part is what happened 24 hours later. That graph stayed high. We did a 5x jump during the day. I don't know which. There we go. We did a 5x jump literally within 5 minutes during the day. It went up and down here as the 24-hour cycle went through, but it came back down and it settled to about 3 times the bandwidth. And that was by Google, YouTube, deciding to leave enabled their video on V6. That's a big step. There are 2 or 3 steps that have happened in the V6 world globally for traffic. First off was when, obviously, Google and a few other players started taking V6 seriously. There was a jump, no doubt about it. Secondly, V6 enabled on Google Maps, the images, those square tiles that make up a map. That jumped traffic. But those type of jumps would be noise-wise down here, tiny. Over the year or so, we got just general traffic increasing. But what happened with video being distributed here changed the whole V6 timeline. Now, there's lots of other graphs. There's other presentations about World V6 Day and the like. But there's one graph out of our side, which we've really not ever published. So this is an interesting one in itself. This is a measure of people's interest. This is Tunnel Broker. And these are the number of accounts that get signed up on a daily basis. And we get about 200-300 people who set up an account. Now, we flush them out if they don't do anything after half a year or whatever. So they go away if they don't configure them. But we just got this massive jump up to nearly 1,600 accounts on World V6 Day. Obviously, it started early because you have a time shift. World V6 Day started at 0 UTC, which would actually be equivalent to Ghana time, midnight Ghana. And with this, what this is simply people reading about V6 and saying, what is this? Maybe I'm interested. Maybe I want to play with it. Maybe the way to do it is to go to Tunnel Broker. Now, we didn't do any advertising about Tunnel Broker specifically, but it was obviously something that people were easy to find through a web search of some variety. Okay, so this is about peering and interconnect. So let's talk about IPv6 in the global peering environment. There's plenty of it, if I go look at some of the major exchanges around the world that started early in doing V6, they were spread out over Europe, over Asia, over the US. We had some of the minor exchanges that still existed and started adding in V6 capability. But the reality is that as I continue to populate this, and to be honest, I don't have a full set for Africa in here. But if I look at the major exchanges that have V6 capable systems, the answer is surprisingly high.